Okay, think about this for a second. Over 9 million people every single year pouring into London.
9 million. It's really staggering when you put it like that.
Right. And they're coming for everything, aren't they? The theaters, the museums, those incredibly old buildings.
The parks, the pubs, definitely the pubs.
And the shopping, Oxford Street, Harrods. Then you've got the history, the Tower of London, St. Paul's.
It just pulls people in. It always has.
It really does. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How did this huge, sprawling city even get started? Where did it all begin?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're sort of peeling back the layers, going right back to the foundation.
Using historical accounts, right? Trying to piece it together.
Exactly. Almost like trying to access London's earliest memories, if you like, to understand how it grew into this global center.
I love that idea, accessing its memories. Okay, so where do we start? The very, very beginning.
Well, the name itself, London, that actually comes from the Romans.
Ah, okay, so not the absolute first people there, maybe?
Probably not. There were definitely people living in the area before the Romans showed up in AD 43. But detailed records, they're pretty thin on the ground for that earlier period.
Gotcha. So AD 43, Romans arrive. They see the River Thames.
Yeah, the Tempames, as they called it. And they decided, this is a good spot. They set up a settlement, called it Londinium.
Londinium, right down.
Right, and that became...
That essentially laid the groundwork for what we now call the city. London's historic core, the financial district today.
And the river location was key.
Absolutely crucial. They built a bridge pretty early on, and boom, that opened up sea trade. Connected Londinium to the wider Roman world and beyond. It was strategic.
So it wasn't just some small outpost, it actually grew.
Oh, it definitely grew. They built houses, temples, bathhouses, the usual Roman setup. It became a really significant town.
How big are we talking?
At its peak, estimates suggest around 50,000 inhabitants, which for that time was a very respectable size.
50,000. Wow. And is there anything left from that time? Can you still see it? You actually can. And this is what I find amazing. Near the Museum of London, you can still see sections of the original Roman city wall.
No way. Standing right there.
Standing right there. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? Walking down a modern street and seeing this structure nearly 2,000 years old, it really brings the history to life for you.
That's incredible. It gives you goosebumps thinking about it. But the Romans didn't stick around forever.
No, they didn't. Around AD 400, as the Roman Empire started to, crumble at the edges, they withdrew their legions from Britain.
And Londinium.
It went into a long decline. For several centuries, the town was largely abandoned. The grand buildings fell into ruin. Just imagine this bustling center slowly becoming overgrown and quiet.
So a ghost town, almost.
Pretty much a shadow of its former self. And that quiet period lasted for quite some time.
What brought it back to life? Was it a slow process?
It was slow, and not without more trouble. Centuries later, Danish soldiers actually caused more destruction.
Oh, great. More problems.
Yeah, but then you get a key figure emerging. King Alfred.
Alfred the Great.
The very same. He played a crucial role. He managed to drive out the Danes and, importantly, started rebuilding the town. He sort of kick-started London's second act.
A reboot moment, like you said. Okay, Alfred gets things going again. Then what's the next big turning point?
Fast forward a bit to 1066, the Norman conquest.
William the Conqueror, that had to be massive.
Huge. And one of the very first things William did after consolidating power was start building a fortress right by the river.
Don't tell me. The Tower of London.
Exactly. The Tower of London, its construction starting then, really marks the beginning of this new Norman era for the city. And of course, the Normans brought huge changes to England overall, language, law, architecture, everything.
From Roman walls to Norman towers, you can really feel the layers building up. So after William, did London just grow steadily?
Well, steadily might be pushing it, but there was definitely a resurgence. By 1509, under Henry VIII, the population was back up to around 50,000.
Okay, so matching that Roman peak again.
Right, but then things really took off. Just a century later, around 1600, the population had quadrupled, maybe 200,000 people.
200,000, that's explosive growth. But I imagine living conditions weren't always great. The sources hinted at that.
Not at all. With that rapid growth came, serious problems. A lot of people were crammed into old, dirty, often wooden buildings. Sanitation wasn't really a thing.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
And it was. First came the Great Plague in 1665.
Oh, yes. Horrifying.
Truly devastating. It's estimated that around 100,000 Londoners died. A massive chunk of the population at the time. Just wiped out.
Unimaginable. And then, as if that wasn't enough,
The very next year, 1666, the Great Fire of London.
started in a bakery, right? Pudding Lane.
That's the one, Pudding Lane, near London Bridge. It was probably an accident, but with all those wooden houses packed so close together and a strong wind blowing.
It just spread like wildfire.
Exactly. The scale of destruction was immense. Something like 250,000 people lost their homes. St. Paul's Cathedral burned to the ground. 88 other churches, too. Gone.
Total devastation. How does a city even come back from that?
It seems impossible, doesn't it? But there was, strangely, a silver lining.
Really? After all that?
Well, the fire essentially wiped the slate clean in many areas. It destroyed many of the worst, oldest, most unsanitary buildings.
So it forced a rebuild.
It created an opportunity. The rebuilding effort led to wider streets, buildings made of brick and stone, not wood, and generally better, healthier housing.
Oh, okay, so progress born from catastrophe.
In a way, yes. And of course, rising from the ashes came the new St. Paul's Cathedral.
The one we see today?
Yeah.
Designed by Christopher Wren.
That's the one. Sir Christopher Wren. An incredible architect, he designed over 50 churches in London after the fire. St. Paul's took decades to build, from 1675 to 1711, but it became this amazing symbol of London's resilience.
Right, a real icon. So the fire, horrific as it was, kind of shaped modern London in a way.
It really did. A major turning point. Okay, let's jump forward again. The city keeps growing. By 1881, the population hits over 3 million.
3 million from 200,000 a couple of centuries earlier. That's incredible expansion.
And it didn't stop there. It actually peaked around 8 million in the 1960s.
8 million, wow.
Though, interestingly, the sources say the central areas saw a bit of a decline in the 70s and 80s, people moving out to the suburbs, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now?
Now it's settled back a bit, but still huge.
Yeah.
Over 6 million people living in Greater London.
Yeah.
So you have a city that's grown over literally millennia. How on earth do you get around in it today?
Huh. Good question. It's vast. But London has some pretty iconic transport. The underground, obviously. The tube.
The tube. An amazing network, really. Gets you almost anywhere pretty quickly. Runs most hours.
But the rush hour.
Oh, the rush hour, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely try to avoid it if you can. We're talking roughly 8 to 10 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the evening. It gets intense. Very crowded.
Understatement. Okay, so maybe not the tube during peak times. What about those famous red buses?
The double-deckers. Absolutely. Much better views from the top deck, obviously. Slower than the tube, but you see so much more.
And they have those tourist ones too, right? Hop on, hop off?
Yep, great for visitors. They usually do a loop of the main sites. Takes about an hour and a half, maybe. And you can just jump off wherever it looks interesting.
Convenient. And then there are the black cabs.
The black cabs, another London icon. You hail them if the yellow for hire sign is lit.
Are the drivers still known for the knowledge?
They are. They famously have to learn thousands of streets and landmarks. Generally, they're really knowledgeable and often quite chatty and helpful.
Good to know. What about seeing the city from the river itself?
Ah, yes. Boat trips on the Thames. A totally different perspective. You can get boats from places like Westminster Pier or Charing Cross Pier.
Where do they go?
Common roads head downriver towards Tower Pier, near the Tower of London, and onwards to Greenwich. Really nice journey.
Greenwich Mean Time.
That's the place. And in the summer months, say April to October, you can even take longer trips upriver. There's one that goes all the way to Hampton Court Palace.
Ooh, Henry VIII's old place. How long does that take?
It's a leisurely one, about 4 hours, I think, but lovely on a sunny day.
Sounds idyllic. Okay, so we figured out how to get around. Now, what about the absolute must-see landmarks? Buckingham Palace has to be near the top.
Definitely. The Queen's official London home. Right at the end of the mall, that big avenue from Trafalgar Square.
And the changing of the guard? Still a big thing.
Huge. Most mornings around 11:30. Lasts about half an hour. But be warned, the crowds are massive. Get there early if you want a decent view.
Good tip. Can you go inside the palace?
Sometimes. Usually in August and September, some of the staterooms are open to the public. Again, expect crowds and book ahead if you can. You can also visit the Royal Mews, see the Queen's horses and coaches, and the Queen's Gallery, which has rotating art exhibitions.
Okay. What about the Tower of London? We mentioned William the Conqueror started it.
Yes. Nearly 1,000 years of history packed into those walls. Fortress, prison, palace, treasury. It's seen it all.
And now it's a museum.
A very popular one. Over 2 million visitors a year. You've got the yeoman warders, the bee feeders, who give tours and tell fantastic stories.
What are the highlights inside?
Oh, definitely the crown jewels. Absolutely dazzling. Then there's the Bloody Tower with its grim tales, the ancient White Tower, the central keep. Walking the walls gives great views. And don't forget the ravens. Legend says if the ravens leave the tower, the kingdom will fall.
Right. They have their wings clipped slightly, don't they?
I believe so, yes, just to encourage them to stick around.
Wise move. And right near the tower is Tower Bridge.
Yep, often mistaken for London Bridge, but Tower Bridge is that iconic one with the two towers and the roadway that lifts up for tall ships. Opened in 1894. Very impressive Victorian engineering.
Cool. And St. Paul's Cathedral. We talked about the rebuild.
Yes, Wren's masterpiece. Huge dome, beautiful interior. It's worth climbing up the galleries if you have the energy.
Which gallery gives the best view?
The Golden Gallery, right at the very top. It's a climb, but the panoramic view of London from up there is just breathtaking. On a clear day, you can see for miles.
Sounds amazing. Then over towards Westminster.
You've got Westminster Abbey, another place absolutely steeped in history, over 900 years old.
That's the Coronation Church, isn't it?
It is. Pretty much every English and British monarch since William the Conqueror in 1066 has been crowned there. It's also the final resting place for many famous figures.
Wow. And right next door.
The Houses of Parliament, the center of UK government, with the famous clock tower.
Housing Big Ben, although Big Ben is technically the bell, right?
Correct. The tower itself is the Elizabeth Tower now, but everyone still calls it Big Ben's Tower. And just around the corner is Downing Street.
Number 10. The Prime Minister's place. Surprisingly unassuming from the outside.
It really is, considering its importance. Just a black door on a terraced street.
London also has amazing parks, which might surprise some people. It's actually very green.
It really is. Huge green lungs right in the middle of the city. Hyde Park is probably the most famous. Massive space. Has the Serpentine Lake where you can go boating.
And Speaker's Corner.
And Speaker's Corner. Your Marble Arch. A unique London tradition where anyone can get up and speak their mind on pretty much any topic. Always interesting to wander past.
Definitely. What other parks are highlights?
Well, Kensington Gardens is right next to Hyde Park. Feels a bit more formal, maybe. It's got the Peter Pan statue. Then there's Regent's Park, further north.
That's got the zoo, hasn't it?
It has London Zoo, yes. And a lovely open-air theater that puts on plays in the summer. And my personal favorite, maybe, is St. James's Park.
Near Buckingham Palace.
Exactly, right by the mall. It's smaller, but beautifully landscaped, lots of waterfowls on the lake. Just a gorgeous, peaceful spot. Many think it's the prettiest.
Lovely. Okay, all this sightseeing works up in appetites. Let's talk food and shopping. Harrods.
Ugh, Harrods. In Knightsbridge. Often called the most famous shop in the world. Started way back in 1849. It's enormous. Sells practically everything. The food halls are incredible.
Worth a visit even just to look.
Definitely. Then for more mainstream department stores, you've got Oxford Street.
Right? Selfridges, Marks & Spencer, John Lewis. Gets incredibly busy, especially around Christmas for the lights.
Oh yeah, the Christmas lights on Oxford Street are a huge tradition. For book lovers, though, you need Charing Cross Road.
The Bookshop Street?
Absolutely. Loads of bookshops, new and secondhand. Foyles is the massive famous one there. You could spend days browsing.
Sounds like heaven. What about Covent Garden?
Used to be the main fruit and vegetable market. Now it's more boutique shops, cafes, restaurants, and lots of street performers. Musicians, magicians, jugglers. Great atmosphere.
And other markets, like Petticoat Lane?
Petticoat Lane Market, yep. That's on Middlesex Street, mainly on Sundays. Good for cheaper clothes, household stuff, that kind of thing. Real East End vibe.
And Portobello Road?
Portobello Road Market, mainly Saturdays. Famous for antiques furniture, clocks, jewelry, silverware. Really bustling, especially the antique section.
So much choice. And for eating out?
London's incredibly diverse.
Yeah.
Soho is fantastic for restaurants, Italian, Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Greek, Thai. You name it, you'll probably find it there.
Spoilt for choice. And pubs.
Thousands of them. Literally thousands. All over the city. Many do great food now, too, pub grub. And you have to try traditional fish and chips while you're here. Find a good chippy or a pub that does it well.
Essential London experience. What about something a bit more fancy, like afternoon tea?
Oh, absolutely. High tea is a real institution. Famous places like the Wits on Piccadilly or the Savoy Hotel on the Strand offer incredibly elegant traditional afternoon tea experiences. Sandwiches, scones, cakes, the works. Very special treat.
Sounds delightful. And for evening entertainment, theater.
The West End. World-famous theater district. You can see huge musicals, classic plays. Tickets can be expensive, especially for evening shows on weekends. Sometimes afternoon matinees are a bit cheaper.
Lots of variety.
Huge variety. You've got everything from the Royal Shakespeare Company performing at the Barbican Center to Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap, which has been running continuously since 1952.
Still going. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cinemas.
Plenty of cinemas, too. The ones right in the West End tend to be the priciest. Sometimes Mondays have cheaper tickets at some places.
Good tip. What about classical music or opera?
Top venues for that would be the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden, the Royal Albert Hall near Hyde Park, that round building famous for the Proms concert.
Yeah.
Also the London Coliseum, home to the English National Opera, and the Barbican Centre again, which hosts the London Symphony Orchestra. For ballet, Sadler's Wells Theatre is renowned, and the Royal Ballet performed at the Royal Opera House too.
And jazz.
London has a great jazz scene. Ronnie Scott's Club in Soho is legendary. The Bull's Head in Barnes is another historic venue. And the 100 Club on Oxford Street has hosted everyone from jazz greats to punk bands.
Wow. And sports. Football must be huge.
Massive. London has several top Premier League clubs. Arsenal up north, Chelsea in the west, Tottenham Hotspur also North London. Going to a match is quite an experience.
I bet. Anything else? Cricket.
Oh yes, Lord's Cricket Ground in St. John's Wood is considered the home of cricket. Very prestigious.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. Museums and galleries. London has an incredible number, right? And many are free.
That's one of the best things. So many world-class museums offer free general admission. The British Museum is the big one, Britain's largest museum. You could spend weeks in there and not see everything. Amazing collections from all over the world.
Like the Rosetta Stone.
Exactly. The Rosetta Stone, the Egyptian mummies, the Parthenon sculptures. Incredible stuff. Then there's the Museum of London, near that Roman wall we talked about.
That focuses just on London's history.
Yes, the history of the city and its people, from prehistoric times right up to the present day. Really well done. There's also the Museum of the Moving Image, MOM, on the South Bank.
What's that cover?
History of cinema and television. Lots of interactive exhibits, usually great fun. For art, the National Gallery in Trafalgar Square is unmissable.
Paintings.
Over 2,000 paintings, mainly European art from the 13th to the 19th centuries. Masterpieces everywhere you look. And right next door is the National Portrait Gallery.
Portraits of famous people.
Yes, famous Britons throughout history. Kings, queens, writers, scientists, actors. Fascinating to see the faces behind the names.
Any quirkier museums?
Well, there's the London Dungeon near London Bridge. It's more of a theatrical horror attraction based on gruesome history, not for the faint-hearted. And of course, Madame Tussauds,
The Wax Museum.
the original and most famous wax museum. Wax figures of famous people, historical and modern, and they still have the Chamber of Horrors section too.
Always popular. Okay, lastly, you mentioned the city earlier. Can you explain that a bit more?
Right, the city refers to the city of London, the oldest part, where Londinium was founded. It's technically a separate city within Greater London, with its own mayor and police force.
And it's the financial district now.
Exactly, the square mile. Home to the Bank of England, the Stock Exchange, countless international banks and financial institutions.
So lots of offices.
Loads. Interestingly, very few people actually live there. Maybe only about 5,000 residents. But during the week, something like 500,000 people commute in to work there.
Wow. So it's buzzing Monday to Friday, but quiet at weekends?
Pretty much. You see the classic image of the city gent in the pinstripe suit and bowler hat, though maybe fewer bowler hats these days. Usually carrying an umbrella, though.
Can you visit anything there?
Yes, the Bank of England has its own museum, which is quite interesting. And the monument is there, too.
The column commemorating the Great Fire.
That's the one. Also designed by Christopher Wren. You can climb to the top for another viewpoint, though not as high as St. Paul's.
Got it. And London has some big parades, too, doesn't it?
It does. Trooping the Colour is a major one, usually the second Saturday in June. It's the Queen's official birthday parade. Lots of military precision, horses, uniforms. Very grand. Held on the Mall.
Sounds impressive.
Then there's the Notting Hill Carnival. Completely different vibe.
Caribbean Festival.
Exactly. Held over the August bank holiday weekend, usually the last Sunday and Monday. Huge street party near Portobello Road and Ladbroke Grove. Amazing costumes, steel bands, sound systems. Incredibly vibrant and crowded.
And the Lord Mayor's Show.
That's specific to the city. Held on the second Saturday in November. It's a parade to celebrate the inauguration of the new Lord Mayor of the City of London. It's a tradition going back over 800 years. The route goes from Mansion House, the Lord Mayor's residence, towards the Strand. Lots of floats, marching bands. Quite quirky and traditional.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a huge amount. From Roman Londinium right through plagues, fires, massive growth, to this incredible modern metropolis with all its landmarks and culture.
It's quite a journey, isn't it? tracing that path through nearly 2,000 years.
What really strikes me is how visible those layers of history still are. You said it yourself, Roman walls next to modern skyscrapers.
Exactly. The past isn't just buried, it's right there alongside the present. You feel it when you walk around. Rin's churches standing proud after centuries, Victorian stations still bustling. It's all woven together.
It really makes you wonder, what's next for London? It's always changing, always adapting. What will its story look like in another 100 or 500 years?
That's the fascinating question, isn't it? Given its history of resilience and reinvention, you feel it will continue to evolve.
And you think about the millions of people making their own memories there right now, those experiences becoming part of London's ongoing story. Maybe some of our listeners will be creating those memories soon.
Absolutely. It's a city that invites you to explore, to discover its secrets, and maybe add your own little thread to its incredibly rich tapestry. There's always more to find.
Definitely a place to experience firsthand if you ever get the chance. It certainly leaves a lasting impression.